How's it going, Andrew?
What's going on, Matt?
Not much. It was a beautiful day to put those signs up.
It was one of those weird days where it's just warm enough that you're like, I don't know if I need a sweatshirt. But then every once in a while you're like, I'm kind of cold too. But you just can never be, it's like you can't, one layer's too hot, the other's too cold. And you're just like, well, I guess I'll live with it. But the sun was nice.
The sun was really nice. It was good to get some sun. And since we were actually working and filling the legs of those signs with sand and tearing apart letters to get on there and everything else for the last 3-ish hours.
Don't remind me.
It was warm enough. It was warm enough to be out there in a t-shirt just working.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, and for those listening, we had got some signs using our Grand Lodge had an initiative to do a matching grant program for external signage and advertising stuff.
For physical media.
Physical media, yep. And so we used the physical media grant, and they look pretty nice. They look pretty cool. So we're able to put some basic info on there.
Yeah, we might have to use one of the pictures as the cover photo for this week's episode so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we could do that. But yeah, what's fun is, it's nice to go do stuff with the brethren and make some improvements to your building's always fun.
Oh, yeah, and I think that signage will be really helpful when we have big events and just, I don't know, maybe we'll get some more visitors for our state of meeting dinners.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Well, why don't we go ahead and run the intro since you are having voice issues today?
Yeah.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
But you know what I was thinking about today? So as we're setting up the signs, we were originally going to do a practice, then we kind of decided to do signs instead. But there is this Masonic value to just working with your brethren, even if it's on something that's random, like building a sign. I had a bunch of good conversations with Brother Jafar just while we're filling up sand in legs, hearing about his family and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of good for bonding, I noticed.
Yeah, no, it was very nice. There's some fun conversations going on. And, there is something about doing physical labor together that always brings you closer together. So,
which is why I always think when we're cooking in the kitchen with the stewards, I know we've talked about this a little bit, being the line is organized in such a way that when you're starting, you're working with the people who are going to follow you around the room. And there's something about just having to do a task together and set it out and complete something.
Right.
That helps you learn to be friends and work with one another, and it's pretty cool, and it is fun. It's fun to do stuff.
Yeah, we've been putting out quite a few tasks this year too, which makes me really happy. We've gotten a lot of stuff done around the building. We continue to get stuff done around the building and make improvements, and it's always a matter of just budgeting your time. And unfortunately, we had a few guys that couldn't make practice today, so when it was obvious that we weren't really going to have enough to do a really good practice, it just made sense to bang out that project instead.
So it's it is cool that we're sitting in a good year where we have enough money saved up so when you're in a lodge, it can be pretty easy when you have rotating trustees and all this stuff to let things start to slip. So it's nice that we're able to stay on top of stuff and actually keep the building improved and create a nice space to work in.
Yeah, we have a good crew of workmen right now going on. People that want to put in the work, want to put in the effort, especially on the physical sides of things. Since we're a little bit younger now, that helps with getting some of these projects done too.
Yeah, and so we can stop torturing the old men and making them climb ladders and stuff.
You said it, not me. I didn't call anybody old. I just said we had younger people.
Yeah, you're right. We don't have any old men in this lodge. Go tell that to our 92-year-old brethren.
They're all young in spirit, especially Don. Don's very young in spirit. But just to backtrack a second here, why is your voice so bad, Andrew? What were you up to yesterday?
I had a wedding, and I was singing a lot, and singing loud, and I blew out my vocal cords.
Did you blow them out early in the night or just over the course of the entire night?
It was by the last 30 minutes that it started getting worn and torn.
Well, at least all the other guests got 30 minutes of reprieve from that.
No, it was fun. Yeah, it was a nice little wedding, and it's just, I stayed out too late, and my throat hurts, and I'm tired. But hey, look at us. We did it. We're here. I made a sign.
We're staying true to our promise of weekly episodes, right?
When I pulled up in the car and saw you guys working on those freaking signs, I was like, oh my God, no. I was like, I just wanted to sit down and watch people practice. I just sit in my little warden's chair and just kind of like, I have like 5 lines. I'll hang out. It's like, oh, now we're pouring sand. We're pouring sand into these legs with funnels that are barely big enough to fit. And it's going to take, you have to sit there and shake it for an hour and a half of just putting sand in a thing. And I was like,
well, the holes on the legs were small. We couldn't do anything about that. So.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're all filled up now. They got good weight to them and stuff. But people don't want to hear us talk about signs the whole time. So we should talk about what I did yesterday.
Welcome to the sign episode.
The sign episode where you get to hear Andrew complain about how he doesn't feel good through his own means and fault and then complain about physical labor.
This is the results of intemperance. That's why you got to keep it tame.
That's why you had to work today, because you didn't practice temperance last night, so now you had to sweat it out.
To be fair, my dad used to have this thing like when, like, if I was like coming back from college and I'd been out the night before, it's like, hey, if you're feeling healthy enough to party hard, you're also healthy enough to work it out in the morning, so you can't avoid work because you partied too much. And I'm like, all right, fine. But yeah, what were you up to yesterday?
I went out to Madison to the Wisconsin Masonic Center to be a judge for the Dairyland Classic, I believe is what Wisconsin Demolay is calling it. It was a ritual competition for all the boys.
That's pretty cool. I had judged that, was it 2 years ago? A year ago? At the last one they did here, I was one of the judges, and it was fun seeing the work. I'd never seen their ritual.
Yeah,
cool to see. How was the talent?
Everybody did stellar. I mean, it was really impressive. You know, you had one guy in there that does like high school theater, so his performances were really over the top. I unfortunately didn't get to watch and I really take in the performance too much of the boys because I was a word judge. So I was basically looking down at my paper the whole time, making sure every word was right, and marking it down if they replaced a word or forgot a word or added a word.
Yeah, but the point system.
Yep.
It's actually they actually have a pretty clean setup, like the way they do the judging with the 3 different types of judge. Time judge is the easiest, and then
and they didn't do it timed this year, so there's a chief judge who was kind of like overseeing the whole thing, and the one that had to issue prompts if they needed them, or if there's a part where it was like they said something and then there's another character that would say something, the line judge would read part of that part so that they could then continue on with their part, like somebody was there. Yeah, the chief judge. And then you had 2 word judges and 2 performance judges.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I kind of like that setup. I wish we would do something like that for the adult Masons to do a ritual competition, because I noticed that it actually motivates those boys quite a bit to like really work their ritual.
Oh yeah,
and get it really clean, and like it's really impressive.
I think it'd be really cool to do at a Masonic level. I know Florida does it. They actually put together like degree teams with like a coach who doesn't have a part on the degree team. He's just there to coach and make sure everybody's stuff is solid and get them all ready. And then they do degree competitions, because they've talked about it on the Level podcast a couple times. I think it would be really cool to do, honestly, at an adult level. These boys were impressive. The room I was in, there's 2 different rooms running. They had a ton of competitions. And the room I was in, there was never a prompt issued.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have to prompt anybody. And for the most part, except for like one time where somebody missed an entire paragraph, nobody really missed anything major through it. There's word replacements or a sentence here or there, weird stuff. But there's nothing like major off from what it should be. And there was a couple of competitors there yesterday that pretty much did everything, competed in every single one of the ones they possibly could, and we're like, yeah, they
made the most. They made the most of that.
I mean, they almost did their entire book from front to back. It was crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, they were doing so many different parts. We'd be like sitting in there, because they'd come in for like one part, and then they'd go like to the other room and do a part or whatever, be done for a while, and then come back. But like, yeah, we'd be sitting there, and we'd have like one come in, one go out, another one come in. The one that was just in before him would come back in to do a different part. And yeah, it was just like this constant, 2 kids that were just banging it out.
And that was at the Wisconsin Masonic Center?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we did it in the lodge rooms upstairs there.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if we could do like, you could have the districts all do a competition, and then the winning teams from those go up to a state competition and get like a prize or something.
Right. Or even just, just because of the nature of membership and stuff like that, just form 12 district teams.
Yeah.
And then have those district teams compete for a state.
Nah, dude, I just want to beat out my district first. I think that'd be fun because then everyone knows each other too. So you're like, yeah, let's get competitive with it. And then you're like, ooh, it's like like a football season.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're going for, and that would be kind of cool. But I think there might be some districts that wouldn't necessarily have the membership to be able to pull off putting together a competition in their own district.
Only one way to find out. I mean, you can see how well. I mean, obviously, I think you probably have to start small with it.
Yeah.
And I would like to see it at a district level. I think that'd be a good time. And I think in the districts that have enough membership to do something like that, I think it could be really beneficial. I think you'd get a lot of crispy ritualists that you might not have even expected who are like, ooh, this sounds fun. And then they start to work the work and you're like, ooh.
I think you might get a lot of guys that would come watch it too to just see, what the best degree work possible looks like.
Oh, I would go watch it for sure.
Oh, yeah. In a heartbeat. So it could be a lot of fun, but be careful what you ask for, Andrew, because now somebody's going to come up to you and go, hey, so that degree competition you were talking about, you want to put it together for us?
Too busy, too tired.
Next thing you know, it's going to be the time for fellowship degree competition.
I don't know if we're qualified. But that's cool. It's nice seeing that the Demolay's doing well and that they are having the ability to have such talented Demolays rolling around doing the ritual, doing good work. So it's cool.
Yeah, they had like 14 different competitors, and I think a few of them were new. So they had a few rookies there doing it. So that was good. And I mean, I know I don't get to make it to many Demolay functions. I try to make Joey's stuff when I can as well, but sometimes scheduling just doesn't work out with their meeting nights and stuff like that. So I thought this was a really important opportunity when it came my way, and I actually had the date open on the calendar when I was asked to go and support our youth because, at the end of the day, the youth, whether it be the boys or the girls, are our future. And, if we're good men and trying to be better men, we should teach them how to do the same thing, or women for that matter, so I think it's one of those things that you can just do. That's just, it's the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do. Support the youth groups.
And there's a fun way to do it too.
Oh yeah. And a ritual competition was absolutely a fun way to do it.
Heck yeah. And
it gave me an excuse to get up to that beautiful building we have in Madison there.
Dude, I love going to that building. When people were upset that we had to add like a $20 per capita or something, or we paid extra $20 as a Mason for like a year.
It was 2 years, $10 a year. So,
and all these people were
$20 a year, something like that.
And I was like, dude, once you see the building, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm happy we do that because it's also Grand Lodge is a blast there too, and it's perfect for that.
Yeah, no, it was that's a building you couldn't let go with how close it is to the Capitol and everything else like that. There'd be no reason to offload that building. It's so old and so beautiful. The architecture's great. It's got so many uses.
Well, it's massive too.
Right. Yeah. Rent it out for weddings and other events and stuff like that.
Oh, I know they do that stuff too.
That was an easy decision for me that year at annual communication. I don't even know if I had a vote that year yet when that happened, but I was at annual communication because I've gone every year since I became a Master Mason, including the virtual one that we had during the unspoken of years. The year that shall not be named.
The year that shall not be named.
But yeah, I've always been up there and I've always enjoyed it. So when they brought up the idea of it being, like $20 or whatever for us to be able to keep the building, I was just like, yeah, well, that's a
done deal. That's a done deal, Zender. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to annual this year.
You finally get to vote.
I voted last year as a
proxy.
That's
right. You were a proxy. Oh, you finally get to cast your own vote this year.
I like just sitting up. I like that, it's like, it is like local or state Mason Con where you're going to meet people from all over the state, and that's super fun. And then I even like just sitting up there and watching all the stuff happening where it's like all the decisions. It's fun to be like, how would I vote on this?
Right.
Most of it's pretty mundane stuff, and you're like, whatever, still fun.
Well, and we're gonna you and I have a lot to do up there this year.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yep. So we're going to have a little table out in the parlor there and a couple of microphones set up. So if those that listen are going to be there and have any interest in popping on for a quick, like 5-minute interview or something, we'll definitely have you on. We're just going to try to do some quick hitter interviews in the morning beforehand or during the lunch break or afterwards, and trying to keep people moving through and hear from some really cool Masons.
I'm really looking forward to that because it's going to be so fun to not only, it'll be a fun podcast to listen to, I think, for our listeners, of us just kind of rapid fire meeting people from around the state. I think it's going to be a cool format. It's going to be very ad hoc, just off the cuff. And if you are going to be at annual, definitely come visit us. And yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Yep. Yeah, that and, all the sessions and, possibly a resolution we have to talk about and all sorts of stuff. We got a busy year. I had a low 12 presentation to make to the new Grandmaster.
Oh, fun.
Yep. So, yeah, we got a busy year up at AC this year.
It's a good thing that I want to talk about. You've never really explained to our listeners what the low 12 is.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And you got, actually, I got a question for you now. I'm going to go into interview mode. Give me the quick history of the low 12, because this is kind of an interesting thing that we've never even talked about.
Sure. So the Low 12 Masonic Riders Association was started in 2020. It had been a labor of love for a couple of years prior to that. Pretty much as soon as I became a Master Mason, I started working on that with a couple other people. It was a brand new Masonic Riding Association. And by brand new, I don't mean a new chapter of one that already existed or anything, but just a completely brand new organization, period. So we had to kind of write up our constitution and bylaws and everything else. Yeah. So that was a lot of revisions. Still sometimes gets voted on and changed and, stuff added as we discover things we may have missed. But I think the original version was on its 8th draft before it was the final draft.
You got to with something like that, you have to make sure it's buttoned up,
Yeah. So that took almost a year to get the bylaw stuff rolling. And it was into 20. I got raised in August of 18, and it was somewhere in 19 where it finally got off the ground, or it got approved by a Grandmaster. And then we had a rough sketch of our logo at that point. So then we had a graphic designer mock it up for us and create a pretty cool back patch and logo for us.
I like that logo a lot. For the listeners, it's like a square and compass with a skull in the center with crossbones and an acacia growing around both sides of it. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, no, it's a fun logo. We were really happy with the way it came out. I can't draw worth anything, but I kind of sketched out something similar to that, and then the graphic designer really made it pop. So it was myself, Jeff Teely, and Mike DeWolf that were the 3 founders of that. And we had kind of undertaken that because we were just kind of wanted to get something going that we were interested in doing and, add a little competition to the pool of Masonic riding associations. So there's quite a few of them out there. So we actually held our first membership drive the same night the National Hockey League was suspended for COVID.
Okay.
So...
Right. Yeah. Perfect timing.
Yeah. Perfect timing. Everything was starting to shut down. So we started up and then pretty much couldn't meet in person because we followed along with, what the Grand Lodge was advising,
with the proto.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent that first year kind of, doing Zooms and trying to figure out what the heck we were going to do.
Very challenging for an association that's whole goal is to ride motorcycles, to sit on Zoom meetings.
Fellowship and supporting charitable, rides and stuff like that, which is basically our aim is to, present a good image of Masons in the riding community and support charitable rides through either attending them or maybe hopefully one day running our own and stuff like that. So yeah, we had that for a couple years. When we've been around for like 4 years now, we've done a few things. We went down to the Tennessee Cave Degree.
That was cool.
At Union Lodge. A couple of us went down there last year as low 12 to meet up with the Florida boys, who was spearheaded by our brother Tyler Mitchell, who we had to have his Master Mason done through courtesy work down in Florida because he got moved for work before we could get him raised up here. He had been interested in the low 12, but we only accept Master Masons. So when he got down there and got raised, he decided to still join us up here. because we were the only chapter in existence at the time, and then found that there's a bunch of people he knew down there that were interested. So they spent about a year working with me on working on their bylaws and stuff that were like a little more specific to Florida, because the way the Grand Lodge of Florida operates, like we have a combined secretary and treasurer up here for the low 12, and that is actually something that you can't do in Florida. You can't have a combined secretary treasurer position, so they needed to change the bylaws for their state to match that and separate those positions out and stuff like that. So, once they can ride year round, we can't. So we have different things about, like, we only need to meet 10 months out of the year. And they wanted 12. And so, small tweaks to the bylaws and stuff to represent the two different cultures. Right.
But you still wanted it to be consistent as a large organization.
Right.
To say, like, it has to be a certain standards, but yeah, you do have to have flexibility a little bit.
Right. Well, and the nice thing about the way we organize this is you can think of it like almost like a Grand Lodge system. So the Puddlers chapter, which is the very first chapter that was ever in existence right here in Milwaukee and has a few members throughout the state, we're the founding grand chapter of Wisconsin. So we are the ones, if another chapter wants to start up in Wisconsin, they're an affiliate chapter. So we're like the grand chapter is the best way to put it. Right? Okay. So the same thing goes for the historic chapter, which is the first chapter that was started in Florida. They are the grand founding chapter of Florida. So any other chapters that might pop up in Florida would be their affiliate chapters and would report to them.
So then
they're sovereign to a certain extent.
In that system, if another state wanted to start, could either grand body give them a charter?
As long as it was after Florida had existed for at least a year.
Okay.
So, and we're close. The pres down there and myself, because I'm still the president of the one up here, are pretty close. We talk fairly regularly. So I know there's some interest coming out of Georgia potentially. So pretty sure we would both probably work together on chartering that one if we wanted to. So
you didn't let your listeners know that you're the grand pres, grand pres of the Low 12 Riders Association.
Whole whopping 15 members in Wisconsin. And I think Florida's got 15 too. So, but yes, I am like the first pres and everything else. So I'm actually in my 5th year being president of the one up here then, or 4th year, whatever it would work. We just had elections again. So we do 2-year terms. So,
yep.
But, so this is we've completed 4 years. We're in our 5th year of existence. So this is my 5th year being in that role.
So how would you say, like, what's the elevator pitch for someone? What is the Low 12 dishin that people should want to eat?
We just like to ride and have fun. I mean, we don't really entertain any drama in the group. We don't deal with any of that. We just want to get on our bikes and ride when we can. We try to do one charitable ride and one fellowship ride during the riding season here in Wisconsin. And for anybody who's listening in a state where you don't have a riding season, yes, we only get on our bikes about 6 months out of the year in Wisconsin, and 6 months might be pushing it sometimes. So yeah, we try to get a solid, 8 to 10 rides in a year. Like to have a good time, just like to ride and hang out. We don't really have like formal meetings. We have reasonable meetings. A lot of them have been over Zoom lately, just kind of as we're spread out and we really haven't been on the bikes. In the summer, we'll probably incorporate some into rides for our meetings, because that's just easier. We don't have a ton of business to deal with. This will be the 2nd year now that we've had the funds to do another $500 donation to the Grandmaster's Appeal. And
then, as you grow, you can always do more stuff. The more members you get, the more flexibility. It kind of sounds to me a little bit like a rider's grotto, where it's like, we're not going to do anything crazy. We're not working that hard. It's just to have some fun and fellowship. And through something all the members enjoy doing is getting on bikes, right? Raise a little money, have some fun, keep it casual. I've heard a lot about them because there's a lot of members of it are in my lodge,
right?
And yeah, it just sounds to me like it's just like, let's not take it too serious. Like, we'll take it seriously, but we don't have to like bend over backwards for this. Let's just have some fun.
Yep.
Let's bike around. Let's have badass patches.
Yep, very much. I mean, the hardest part of doing something with like a motorcycle organization is always the ride planning. if you're not just riding to go do a charity ride, or meeting up like we do, we go down to the Rochester Memorial Day Parade every year and ride in that. And we started incorporating other Masonic riding groups into that as well now. And like the hardest part is route planning, just knowing how you're going to get to where you're going, right? And
weather.
Making sure they're out safe and making the call before the ride as to whether you're going to push the weather or not, and then long trips are always can sometimes be a pain to plan depending what you're doing. Like we got 4 people going down to the Cave Degree this year, so pretty excited for that.
And if you're stopping places, where are you room and boarding?
Right.
Where are you going to go eat? What are you going to do?
Some of that stuff you can do on the fly, like on the trip that we're going down to the Cave Degree for. We're not making any hotel bookings for the first night on the way down. Because if you hit bad weather or something like that, you don't necessarily want to be like, we have to push 300 miles through the rain. When,
you can find a place. Yep.
We could go 200 miles and then go 400 the next day instead if it's bad weather. Or if we know there's going to be bad weather the next day, go 400 the first day and only 200 the next day. So you kind of want that flexibility sometimes on where you're staying. Certain other trips, like if you're going out to Sturgis and you got 990 miles to cover on your way out there, you're making 500 miles that first day no matter what.
Yep.
Like it doesn't matter. You gotta get to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or not. Sioux Falls.
So, are there any rides being planned right now?
Yeah, so we're starting to work on this summer schedule. Charity rides are starting to slowly come out, so we're starting to see where they're going. We're going to try to get down to Poopies in Illinois this year. Maybe go up to Doc's Harley Davidson again. A little known thing. We did this a couple of years ago. I don't know if people know it, but the center point for the Northwest Hemisphere.
Okay.
Is in northern Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
And it's one of only 2 of the 4 of those that is actually accessible in the world. One's at like the bottom of the ocean, and the other one's in the middle of some inaccessible mountain range.
Oh, that's cool.
I can't remember where the other one's is accessible, but there's actually a marker up there for it. So we took that ride a couple years ago to go say we stood there.
I mean, that's the thing is with rider stuff, sometimes the destination's not even as important as the ride. So you're just like, let's just ride somewhere just to have an excuse to ride somewhere. Yep. It's like you're just road tripping around, but on a bike.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we're going down to Tennessee again this year to meet up with the Florida guys and ride the Tail of the Dragon, probably ride the Devil's Triangle and check out some cool degree work, because what they do at that one is Friday night, there's either an EA or an FC in the lodge. And that's put on by one grand jurisdiction. And then that Saturday at like noon, they do degree in a cave. And that's put on by another grand jurisdiction. And then it kind of keeps rotating through. So whoever conferred in the lodge room, the EA or the FC the year before, is now conferring the in the cave the following year.
I always really want to go to that, but it's always scheduled during Irish Fest.
Right.
Yeah. I had to work the stage, and I'm like,
It's really close to Zoe's birthday, so I got really lucky this year. Her birthday's the day before we leave, so the party's going to be the weekend before that. But we're taking like a Wednesday through a Monday to go down there.
So if anyone was interested in the Low 12 Riders Association, how do they get more information?
Let me double check what the email address is again. I think I remember it, but I want to make sure I get it right, because I created a generic email for it, kind of like we have timeforfellowship@gmail.com, which you can always reach me at for whatever you want.
Timeforfellowship@gmail.com.
We also have the low 12 wi@gmail.com. 12 is the numbers 1 and 2, so it's the low 12 wi@gmail.com.
And you guys are on Facebook too?
Oh yeah, we are also on Facebook. The best way would probably be to reach me through that Gmail account, though. Email me there. I'm the one that checks it.
So. But if they follow the Facebook, they can keep up on what's going on and stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not, it's one of the many pages I manage. So, it's hard, speaking of social media, like we're really good at posting on Time for Fellowship because we always have stuff going on and stuff, but it's really hard, and Lake, we're pretty good at posting on Lake. It's really hard to manage to find posts for all winter long when your group isn't doing what they do, which is ride, and we're not, because there's snow on the ground. There's only so much material and content and stuff you can put out there during that like dead time, which kind of affects your page's reach. So I'm still trying to figure out how to overcome that hurdle. Like, yeah, there's some funny memes and stuff out there, but
what you got to do is backlog lots of pictures from your events and then save some, and then mirrors like, throwback to this like trip, and just like you can just post those too.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, instead of doing a photo dump at the time of the event with like all the pictures,
you got to save content.
Hold some back and save it for over the winter to remind us of all the good times we had when there wasn't snow and salts on the road.
You can reminisce,
right? Yeah, and cry because I can't get on my motorcycle at that time. Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful idea.
Right, I have another good idea.
No, that is actually a really good idea. I like it.
So, all right. I want you to picture something. So, like, let's say 5-10 years from now, the org's grown a little bit. You got to do this. You got to get a custom built Grand Prez motorcycle that gets passed to the sitting Grand Prez that's decked out all low 12 style, and it's like an heirloom. That's so when it goes to the next one, because you guys don't get cool regalia or aprons, you just get a little patch. So then he gets the bike for the 2-year term. And
it's not a little patch, it's the little Prez patch. Yeah, but it just says president on it because, at the end of the day, we meet on the level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was an interesting dynamic. So I'm pres of the chapter up here, right? The grand chapter up here, but there's another grand president down in Florida because he's president of the grand chapter of Florida, But yeah, there is that certain, and I don't personally care for the fact that there is, but there is this certain thing about the fact that I was like the first president, and people acted like, that was a big deal. And I'm just like, I don't see what the big deal is, but
I'm overseeing 15 people.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess it's a big deal to get like an organization launched off the ground, but I don't want to get treated any different than anybody else. I'm there to ride. I'm there to have a good time. And yeah, okay, maybe this, but I wasn't the only one. I didn't create this by myself. I had a lot of help doing it. And obviously I had people that were interested in becoming part of it. So,
and you were working heavily with the other founding members as well.
Yeah. Yep. So it just happened to be that they decided I got to be the first prez. Either one of them could have easily been the first prez as well. So,
both of those guys are pretty busy.
Right. Exactly. And at the time I wasn't as busy as I am now. So, but it's been good. It's been a fun ride. It's had its ups and downs. I honestly feel a little bit bad this year because I feel like my devotion to Lake as worshipful master right now has really kind of affected my ability to keep up with low 12 stuff. But I'm going to try to find a way to turn that around for the riding season, especially. It's just hard to balance everything right now, especially with how active we are as a lodge and how many petitions we've had coming in and degrees we've been doing.
And you got a podcast.
And a podcast because, I had to throw that on the table. But, I need to refocus myself now as we're coming up on riding season and make sure I'm using my time wisely and spending a little less time doom scrolling on TikTok. So.
All right. So what did we learn today?
Nothing, but it was a good episode of us just chatting.
I'm going to name this episode Signs and Motorcycles.
Ooh, I like it. That sounds like a reasonable name. And considering your voice is terrible, I think we'll bypass news and events this week. You did a pretty good roundup of everything.
I did a lot. I did actually too many events last time. It's a very extensive list.
It is a very extensive list at the end of the last episode, which was very nice, by the way. Mm-hmm. You did an excellent job. So
I told you I could do this by myself. Nothing to worry about.
Well, I get a little bit worried, which I think is fair.
No, it's fun having John on. Dude, so at their last episode, for the listeners, I had gotten home and go, I feel like I didn't record my news and events. So I clicked the wrong button on this device next to us. And so when I got home, I go, oh my God. So I was in my bedroom with the mic in front of me being like, and this event's going on, and this event's going on. Like, we tried to record it post pod. And I was like, all right, there we go. So I went a little long on the list because I was kind of just trying to get it done fast.
Right. Well, a little update for you guys before we sign off today on the state of the pod and where we're heading. Obviously, we got these new beautiful microphones, and we hope you're all enjoying the luscious sounds of our voice through better microphones.
Luscious voices.
We've also gotten some other tech stuff that has been used for our Facebook Reels and our TikToks that we've been doing. We have some wireless lavalier mics that we are going to try to figure out if they can work with our recorder for the podcast to potentially bring you guys some more interesting and dynamic content in the future. So stay tuned as we try to figure out the technical difficulties of that. But yeah, we're excited to keep doing this for you guys and kind of keep upgrading as we go on here. You know, it's a slow progression at times. It's not like we have sponsors knocking our door down. So yeah, so it'll be good. We're excited. And if you need make sure you're following us on all of our socials. We are on X, Instagram, Facebook, and of course TikTok, until the government bans it, but that's a whole nother topic that we won't get into on this show. And then, yeah, make sure you're rating and subscribing the podcast wherever you listen to it. That helps pump us out into the algorithm so more people can find us easier. So hope you're enjoying it. Look forward to bringing you new content, and feel free to email us with anything at timeforfellowship@gmail.com.
Cool. I'm going to go get myself a pizza, I think.
And rest that voice. Yeah, you should definitely, maybe eat some Vicks Vapor Rub or something. Lube it up.
I think that's poison.
It's probably not a good idea. Nobody listened to my advice.
He's not a doctor, clearly.
I don't even play one on TV.
All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good one. Take care.
Have a great day.